have to ask that at the time of year. You want it off for a while? Well, some of you are fanning, so I guess we'll leave it on. Let me know if it's too cool. I always like to start on Memorial Day with a little bit of the history, because sometimes we wonder how Memorial Day started and what it's all about. It began in 1868, 3 years after the Civil War, where a group of freed slaves went and stood before an unmarked grave that was full of 250 unknown soldiers. Can you imagine how sad that war was, as all wars are? And it evolved from there in honoring all soldiers who had passed on, and then it evolved even further on Memorial Day, where we now honor all our loved ones who have gone on before us. You know, and at our age, that list gets longer and longer, doesn't it? I remember growing up with my parents, they'd get the paper, and this was a big deal every day when the paper came, and they would go right to the obituaries, and we would kind of tease them about that and laugh about it, but now that I'm their age, I kind of get it, why they did that. You know, I really get that now. It's not so funny anymore. But today what I'd like to do is take that remembering a little bit deeper into a metaphysical focus, because I believe that ultimately the thing to remember the most is our deep within us, and that hidden place deep within us is that memory of God that we often forget, and that's why we chose the song today with the words from the Course in Miracles. Let me remember, I am one with you. Peace to my brother who is one with me. What profound words. If we could just get that, wouldn't the world be different? But all this remembering of the memory of God just lies hidden under layers of illusionary distractions. Layers of distractions. And we all have those things that we choose to remember instead, like somebody done somebody wrong, those songs. Anybody keep remembering them? Or if only, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Anybody have any coulda, woulda, shouldas that you're remembering, right? And those are the memories we have to let go of. So if you'd repeat with me, if you think of any of those memories, just say, I'm done with that. Together, I'm done with that. That's all we have to do when those negative memories come up, those painful ones. I'm done with that. Our soul holds the memory of God as a deep longing in our hearts. And I don't think there's anywhere more profound where it speaks of that in Psalm 42. First time I read this, I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever read. As a doe longs for running streams, so longs my soul for you, my God. My soul thirsts for God, the God of life. When shall I go to see the face of God? Can you hear that longing? And that longing makes us begin our search for that presence. And we look in the outer, what's the old song, looking for love in all the wrong places. Anybody tried that? Been there, done that? Just doesn't quite fill it, does it? Until we find it within ourselves, deep within ourselves. And that's one of the reasons I wore black today. Not as a color of mourning, but metaphysically, black is that mysterious, hidden, deep remembrances in our unconscious mind, that deep memory of God that is hidden by this world, that mystery that is deep down in there. Jesus came to the earth as an awakened master who remembered the memory of God in himself, and he came to awaken us to that same memory in each of us. Boy, did that message get messed up, didn't it? And traditional Christianity became about guilt and sin instead of on the memory of God. So today I'd like to remember a little bit of what he taught us. Let's remember what he taught us. His main teaching was knowing our oneness with God. He said, the Father and I are one, and I am in you, and you are in me. In unity we say every Sunday, join me, there is only one presence, one power, active in the universe, in this church, and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. If we really got that, we wouldn't need anything else, and I have to keep coming back to remembering that. There is only one, and each one we see is a reflection of ourselves. Jesus taught only one law, and that was the law of love. Love God, your neighbor, and yourself. That's it. And the best gauge of truth we can have is how loving, how kind, and how compassionate we are. Not the old one, was it back in the 80s when everybody was saying, the one with the most toys wins? Something like that. No, it's the one who's the most loving, the most kind, the most compassionate. I know I have a way to go yet before I get there. Jesus taught in the memory of God that out of that would come service to each other. Wash each other's feet, he said. Wash each other's feet. Take care of each other. Feed the hungry, heal the sick, provide for widows and orphans. Whatever you do to the least of my brothers, you do to me. Oops. And then Jesus taught, fear not, peace be unto you. Don't worry about tomorrow. Trust that memory of God. In union with God, there is nothing to fear. And then he went on to teach forgiveness. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. Not that there's a God out there that judges us and then forgives us, but letting go of that consciousness of judgment and being in the consciousness of unconditional acceptance and love. Oh, do I have a ways to go? How about you? Look what happened. I love Lot's wife, the story of Lot's wife as they were all running away from Sodom and Gomorrah and the city was being destroyed. And she looked back, which metaphysically represents looking back with resentment, and she turned to a pillar of salt. That's what happens to us as we keep in those resentments of the past. Would you repeat with me? I'm done with that. Together, I'm done with that. One more time. I'm done with that. Yeah. And because forgiveness is so important to that remembering, it's Memorial Day, and every Memorial Day, I do an annual medical checkup. You ready for your annual checkup today? We're going to have an annual pastectomy. I talk about this every Memorial Day. Our annual pastectomy is here. And I remember my own dear friend and classmate, Rev Sandra Hummel, who is now on the other side. I get goosebumps talking about it. She said, it is when I have a steady input of spiritual power through prayer and meditation and the silence that I'm re-energized within, and then I'm capable of performing a radical pastectomy. Not just any pastectomy, but a radical pastectomy. I'm real clear about which persons or events continue to drain my spiritual power. Anybody ever get drained? Yes. All right. It is through the power of God alone within me that I am capable of letting go and freeing myself from past wounds that continue to zap my creative energy. Now I'm able to pull the plug from anything in my past. Are you ready for your annual pastectomy? Yes. Are you ready? Okay. Do you have any memories that you need to let go of? Yes. Then say together, I'm done with that. Together, I'm done with that. Anybody have any unforgiveness you're holding on to? Don't lie. Together, I'm done with that. Are you holding certain people with your certain perceptions and memories and judgments of them? Together, I'm done with that. Because when we hold them in those perceptions, we're holding ourselves there with them. And we want to be free. I'm done with that. And then we need to replace that with the memory of God, which takes me back to the Course in Miracles. I'll say it first, and then if you can say it with me, your pastectomy will be complete. The past is gone, and all that remains is the blessing. Together, the past is gone, and all that remains is the blessing. One more time. The past is gone, and all that remains is the blessing. Michael was sharing with me again this week when he had his stroke. It was a very interesting time. It was very difficult for him because huge chunks of memory seemed to be missing. And all of a sudden he didn't know who he was anymore. And he felt angry that he had lost all this. He felt like he'd even lost his connection with God, which he's had since childhood. And he felt like he was in that void that we talked about last week. He felt angry about losing himself. And he lost skills like writing, knowing his right from his left. And then his memory, as he began to heal, his memories started to come back. And the most amazing thing happened to him. I love it when he talks about this part. He said as those memories started to come back, he realized he had a choice of whether to attach to them or not. There were certain memories that came back that he decided, I don't need those to attach to them anymore. I'm just going to let them go. And there were other memories that were good, and he did want to attach to them, like his memory of God. He realized he could take it or leave it, or change his perception. He could let go of who he used to be and choose to be who he wanted to be. It was a whole new life for him now. So he discovered that losing all those parts of himself wasn't really such a bad thing after all. Memories can hold us into who we think we are and keep us from something new, something higher. Keep us from that memory of God. So Michael, as he healed himself, every morning, if you remember the artist way, they'd have the morning pages, you would journal. And he would journal every morning so he could practice writing again. And then he used the Tibetan bowls. He would actually put them over his head. And he had both a mystical and physical healing with the Tibetan bowls. And he came back to himself as the new Michael with that memory of his connection with God. He still doesn't know his right from his left. We can live with that. When we're driving in the car and he says, which way do I turn it? If I say right, he'll go left. If I say left, that's okay. We can live with that. The important things he remembers. So what happens when we finally awaken to that memory of God? How are things different? Well, when you know your union with God, you're no longer afraid of anything. You know you're provided for in every moment. There is nothing to fear, even if you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. There is nothing to fear in your union with God. You all know my favorite author, Louise Penny. She spoke of something similar to this. She said, you go to another place, a deeper place, where no quarrels exist, a place of contentment and peace. Not even joy, I think, but freedom. Free from the cares of this world. Wow, who wouldn't want that? Who would choose anything other than that memory of God? The whole unity movement was founded on prayer and returning to that memory of God. And today, as part of Memorial Day, I'd like to honor our family tree in unity. You don't think of a church having a family tree, but we do. And those who have taken my Unity Basics class have heard this before. But the whole family tree, on the top of the tree, was Phineas Quimby. What a wonderful name, Phineas Quimby. He was one of America's first mental healers, faith healers, prayer practitioners. Today we would say he was psychic. He was very intuitive. And he would sit with people, and he would know immediately what was wrong. And he would know not just what the physical condition was, but what the thought system behind it was. And he called them your opinions of yourself. And he would seem to be able to get in touch with the opinions that they held about themselves. And then through a prayerful place, he would give them a new opinion, a new thought system, a new opinion of how they saw themselves. And people were healed through his prayers. He knew the source of all disease was trapped emotions and trapped memories that needed to be released. And he went on to heal people like Mary Baker Eddy. Anybody know who she is? Yep. She was the founder of Christian Science. Powerful woman, very powerful. If she prayed for you, you were healed. But she was also very strict and rather narrow in her thinking. And her people had to be held to such standards that some people wanted a little more freedom in their faith, like going to a doctor. And so one of her students, Emma Curtis Hopkins, was one of New Thought's great teachers, who went on to hold classes. And you know who came to her classes? Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who went on to start Unity. Ernest Holmes, who went on to start Religious Science. And many others are like branches. That tree started to have more and more branches, all healing through the power of the mind. Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Through the metaphysical concepts of being able to create your life like Michael did after his stroke. Being to create your life in a new way. Manifest things that you need. And then I love unity because we also stress the mystical aspect, the heart. Surrendering. to that memory of God, letting go and entering that flow of life with complete trust that everything is unfolding as it should. That's the freedom when you can really do that. Total freedom. And then locally, in Unity in the Valley here, I want to honor the ministers who have gone before us. First one was Reverend Joyce Meek. And I wish I had the year for you. We're going to be looking at our Founders Day and celebrating Unity as the year progresses. But after Joyce in 1996, Reverend Nancy Cleese Cook was here. Anybody remember Nancy? I don't know if there's anybody here that would remember her anymore. She was here till the year 2000. And then Reverend Paul Hart came. Some of you might remember Paul Hart. I don't know. I see some heads nodding. Chuck and Marilyn remember him. He was only here 2 years because he had a health challenge himself. After he left in 2002, Reverend Maurice Garrett came, and many of you remember Maurice, of course. And then in 2014, some crazy lady by the name of Rev Ann Marie came. God knows how long you'll have to put up with her. But we honor the past. I mean, and Maurice, look what he did when he was here. This building was built. We honor that. The people that were here back then were so dedicated to supporting the building of this building. We honor that today. And now our Board of Trustees with our new board member, we're all going to get together in June and vision for the future. How exciting. Let your board members know if there's anything you want to include in that vision. And as we envision both for ourselves and for the church, we hold to the promise of good old Jeremiah. Not the bullfrog, but the one in the Bible. He said, my favorite quote of his, he said, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not for harm, to give you a future with hope. Call to me and I will answer you, and I will tell you great and wonderful things that you have not known. In other words, what God has for us is so much more than we could even ask or imagine. And all we have to do is envision it, ask for it, and then wait for the right time and the right way. As that memory of God comes forth in all of us, with the peace and the freedom from fear. We have no fear of the future here at Unity. And we call forth those attributes that Jesus brought of love and kindness and compassion and service to each other as we grow. Service to each other. We go into the future confidently, not alone, but with the memory of God that is deep within us. Let us take that into prayer today, both for our individual lives and for this church. As we tap deeper and deeper into that memory, that knowing and awareness of our union with God, all fear and doubt slip away. And we enter into the realm of infinite possibilities, the realm of positive outcomes, the realm of total love and peace and joy. And we call it forth in and through each life, unfolding in perfect divine order, taking us where we need to be for our highest soul expression of life. We call it forth in this church, that the angels of unity, the divine ideas of unity in the valley are expressed in the most wondrous ways they can be. And we open to receive it and embrace it and bless it as we bless each of you here today. We hold the memory of God for you. We hold in that memory of God all those who have gone before us and all those who are here today. We say thank you, God. And so it is in the nature of Christ. So it truly is. Amen.
Please join us in singing The Face of God. It's in your bulletin.